Hi there, welcome back to the Noah Presgrove case. We've got an original map analysis timeline today where we focus on key partygoers, people who I've never really locked onto before until now, and that's to do with Brylan Sweat and Mikey Lair. With some additional names as well on the sideline, retelling the stories and events what supposedly did happen. Credit to Caden Pressey and his timeline, where he did make reference to these key individuals, and that's why I'm able to do what I'm doing today. I've got a map project, I've got the keys, color coding. I'm going to explain it all to you, but be sure to stick around till the end to get the full understanding of where I'm coming from and the suspicions regarding Brylan Sweat and Mikey Lair. And people may be thinking, but why exactly? Why them of all people? Because of just one event which has triggered all kinds of different pathways and opportunities because of the timeline of it. Whether it be mentioned in the title by now or not, is to do with the sleeping debacle, the sleeping arrangements. You thought the sleeping scenario with Noah was a bit of a mess, but also a bit hard to believe. Okay, we're sleeping on the floor Saturday, but then when came Monday, oh no, not wanting to sleep there, but in the bed and storming off. But it seems like when it comes to other partygoers that were still present, not everybody had a bedroom because there was only 2 to 3 anyway, those that actually lived there. With the exception of Jack Newton, because being the boyfriend and girlfriend Carter Combs together in their own room makes sense. But what about Brylan Sweat? What about Mikey? Where were they? Well, I'm going to explain it to you today. I know a few will already know, but we're doing it bit by bit, the events in the correct order to try and work out, was there a time frame of suspicion and possibility? And there definitely appears to be. And even Caden Pressey found it weird. Not only mentioning the Partners in True Crime episode publicly, but in the private one a month before in June of 2024. For Caden Pressey to acknowledge it as it was kind of strange, or it was pretty strange, must mean there's some more depth behind it. The more people that find it strange, especially witnesses, the more important it could be. And who knows what else it could link onto and tie on with, right? So that's what we're looking at today. There might be some videos or clips which I'll play with certain events. So whilst we're looking at it visually on the maps, we can zoom in literally to real time, as in the moment of when things were going on, because I do have some old clips. What I do want to say as a heads up, there is another video piece. It's not groundbreaking, but it may have never been seen before by some of you, and I will do that as a separate video. That will come with time, so just be patient. As a heads up, I did do another important breaking news update video earlier on today. If you haven't watched it, be sure to watch it, because Justin Roy has made a statement, quite a firm one, with a level of confidence and certainty. And depending how you interpret the language and wording, it's kind of shocking. If you want to find that video link, go to the top right corner of the screen right now where that eye symbol is. You click on that, the drop-down box will show the video from earlier and the full playlist of this case, which I've done all my videos in coverage. But just try and watch this video first, and then if you get time, go on to the other. So with that all being said, little introduction. Welcome to those that are currently here in this live premiere. Share your thoughts, opinions and reactions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. And at any point throughout this video, towards the end, even if you're watching on catch up, let me know if your thoughts have changed regarding suspects, possible ones, who could possibly be responsible for the supposed murder of Noah Presgrove. And if you've got any questions, if you want to elaborate, let me know down below in the comments section under this video. You'll find a pinned message by me with additional links if you do want to support this channel. Big shout out to Cleo, of course, last night, and as well Vanessa Salazar for their support on this channel. Really positive to see. It's like a big surprise in a good way. With that all out the way, without further ado, let's begin this new map analysis timeline. Here we are. So at first it might seem a bit too much with all the different markers and colour codings. First of all, I do have it in order. We'll go through it bit by bit as for the key times. But as for the markers, the colours, what they mean grouped together. So if you see a red marker, that's to do with a individual, one of the key possible suspects, within this case, Mikey Lair. The blue marker is to do with Brylan Sweat. When you see a yellow marker, that's like a dynamic duo, a pair of people. More so, Brylan Sweat, Mikey Lair. But there might be some events where it involves Brylan Sweat and Isaac, or Mikey and Noah, just as a heads up. The orange markers are more so the group of guys collectively. And I have mentioned the initials and we'll read them out bit by bit. Purple marker being another individual, such as Renee Milan. So, with that being in mind, we've got some markers ahead as well, but that's for later. Where do we start first with this timeline, this party situation? First of all, let's get to the property. As you see here, be very familiar with by now, we're currently facing north, and I've got the markers spread out so it's easier to read the text. But these events and markers are to do with the property in the area, right? First and foremost, Saturday, Noah Presgrove wrestled Mikey Lair, and that was outside on the patio area. Where would that be, the front porch patio or round the back? Either way, they were messing about wrestling, kind of similar to the slap game. Now, considering what happened, well, what supposedly happened to Noah in the end, the death and possible murder, beat down, attack, and you've had slap games over the party time, and before that you got wrestling, it's quite physical, isn't it? Now, it might be just guys being guys and messing about having fun, but you can see how there's a room of opportunity for things escalating, especially when there's alcohol involved, right? So, whilst there was wrestling outside of the house on Saturday, Noah Presgrove beat Mikey, dominated. Did anyone actually get hurt? No mention of that. Where have we heard this reference from, in case people are scratching their heads? Well, this point about Saturday actually came from Caden Pressey, and it was within that recent leaked interview, which actually dates back to June time of 2024. Now, what's very interesting, from what I can remember, a particular individual might have been Justin Roy, or there was a collection of notes gathered and presented by Justin Roy, where it stated Mikey Lair only showed up to the party on Sunday, and he got a lift down to the party along with Noah Presgrove. And at the time I thought, okay, fair enough. In terms of the stories, what we heard of Sunday night going into Monday, and the party footage too, it matched up with when Mikey was present. As for Saturday, supposedly not there. And yet it was Caden Pressey in recent time with the leaked interview I'm referring to, in which Caden stated Mikey did attend the party on Saturday, even though a post by Justin Roy in the past stated that Mikey only showed up Sunday. Now, who's right, who's wrong? You would, no disrespect to Justin, but you would think that Caden Pressey is correct there, because Caden was an actual observer, an actual party goer who was present, and I guess witnessed Noah wrestling and messing about. That's interesting. Now, how significant is this event? I mean, because there's a level of physicality behind it, and with Noah Presgrove beating Mikey, and when I say beat, I don't mean hurt, more so won the bout, won whatever they were trying to do. It was outside the patio area, quite a hard floor, right? I know you've got grass about where it would be softer, but how long did it go on for, the wrestling? No time was given. What was the atmosphere like after that? Do you know, if for some reason a person was triggered, annoyed, frustrated that they got dominated, they lost, or they were a sore loser? I mean, at the end of the day, you got to take in mind that Mikey Lair supposedly has psychological issues, from what Caden Pressey has stated in a Partners in True Crime interview, that Mikey Lair suffers from PTSD. Now, what caused it and what triggers it? Does loud noises? Does fighting? Anything like that? Because if you mix it all together, it sounds like a bad place to be. Triggering as well in that type of environment. So if Mikey was somehow responsible, and this is just a theory, first of all, just to set the tone, if Mikey was somewhat responsible for Noah's outcome in the end, Could it be Mikey wanted to settle the score? He didn't like losing to Noah, so he wanted to dish it back. Now, in terms of other potential wrestling, which didn't happen but would have ended the same way, Colton Newton, older brother to Jack Newton, stated that if Noah was to wrestle JJ Bump Ass, or Flat Ass by now, that Noah would win and dominate. Now, the way it sounds like, Noah is a dangerous individual, but not in a bad way, because he's capable physically, fitness levels, technique, ability, wrestling. But it doesn't matter how good you are. If it's a 2 against 1, 3 against 1, some kind of ambush, you can't defend yourself as well. You can be vulnerable. You can be caught off guard. And while Saturday may have seemed like a normal night for most, including Caden Pressey, was anything going on in Mikey Lair's mind? I've lost to Noah wrestling. I was embarrassed in front of people. He threw me around. He slammed me on the ground. He pinned me, whatever. I need to get back at him. That's just a possible theory, an idea. The first one to set the tone with Mikey in his situation. So Mikey has had some kind of physical encounter with Noah, I guess in a non-serious way on Saturday. What's the next thing that stands out as in physicality or some kind of it? Well, we go to 1:30 a.m. Monday, where Brylan Sweat slaps Noah Presgrove. What we will do is cue the video in a couple of seconds. This video footage took place on the front once again, I guess near to where the wrestling took place. But this occurred Monday at 1:30. And it was Caden Pressey that was behind the camera recording it. Let's play the video.
This range, I will fucking...
Dude, I'll just beat the Kyle was talking about that man hit me.
Like, I'm actually I would just rather, I don't know where.
No, you slap me. I slap you. As far as I can. I do trust you. I trust
hit me.
I trust
Hit me then.
I trust you.
Hit me.
You're really holding
Hit me soon. Go ahead. See, I wasn't going.
On that occasion, you saw Noah on the receiving end of it, but still there was a form of physicality, a form of physical contact made, with that particular one being, for fun, messing about. But you can see how things could escalate if it was to occur on a different day. But on that occasion, with it being Brylan Sweat doing the physicality behind it, what was the reason and motive really? Well, it's because Noah Presgrove was asking for it. You saw him say, go on, do it. I'm not going to slap back. You saw that Brylan Sweat was a little bit reluctant. And even when he did slap Noah and Noah promised not to retaliate, Brylan ran away fast. Could you say Brylan Sweat shares characteristics of a cautious individual? A possible coward in which, if there was confrontation or an attack, Brylan wouldn't be stupid enough to confront Noah one-on-one. It would be an ambush, or it would be joining on in like a pack of wolves if there was more physicality occurring Monday morning, as an example. It does make you think. You look at the body language, you look at the psychological emotions and responses. Noah is just standing there. Come on, do it. And yet Brylan Sweat, bit of dialogue given back. Now, we saw Isaac Rojas in the background making eye contact with Brylan, saying that will kill you. Not I will, but that will kill you. Unless Isaac was warning Brylan, saying, if you're going to slap Noah, just be careful because he might wrestle you to the ground. Just as a possibility, right? But the eye contact, the conversation was towards Brylan and not Noah, in case people did get mixed up at the time. You saw the birthday girl, Avery, comes in the background too, talking to Isaac. But nevertheless, just the body language by Brylan Sweat was very interesting. It comes across as if Brylan Sweat doesn't want to lay his hands on Noah, even if it's in a playful way, because he's thinking, what will the retaliation be? I don't want to be taken to the floor, this and that. So that's what I found quite interesting, right? And for Caden Pressey to be there to witness it himself, to record it, This was explained, I believe, in the June leaked interview, which may have not been elaborated that clearly when it came to the Partners in True Crime one, because an actual time was given, 1:30 in the morning, Monday, the beginning of what was going to happen to Noah later. So there was any recent events, relevant ones on the day? Was there a lasting impression? Was there any grudges? Was there any unrest building? I think in the situation with Brylan Sweat slapping Noah, there shouldn't be, because Noah was asking for it, Brylan delivered it. That's really it. But I think some people were saying there might have been a bit of tension with Brylan Sweat and Noah in the moment before the slap, because some were saying Brylan Sweat was holding a knife in his hands, or he was holding something. Maybe it was the item used to pierce the can to shotgun it when drinking earlier, possibly. Did Brylan say, "I'll stab you," or "this will hurt"? We'd have to go back over that in a separate video, but you could interpret it as a little bit of tension. But at the end of the day, you tie it with the psychological response of running away, fight or flight. It was flight for Brylan Sweat in a one-on-one confrontation. If at the time of the possible murder of Noah Presgrove, would someone like Brylan be the one and only to take it out on Noah face to face? Probably not. A bit more sly, a bit more quiet on the sideline, maybe join in with other people, or kick Noah down when he's literally already on the ground. I'm just using this body language of these different partygoers and how they could operate in a situation if Noah was being attacked. What is the actual motive, though, behind it all? I can't think of a motive just yet when it comes to Brylan Sweat. As for Mikey Lair, psychological issues, that could have consequences, possible triggers along the way. Being dominated by Noah when wrestling on Saturday, could have been embarrassed, could have felt frustrated. These are just ideas, and that's all at this moment in time. Okay? We haven't got to the main event where it makes it look dodgy. Okay? So just be patient, please. So, after the slap situation, the only other point which did happen, but I don't think there was a time stamp, and that's why I didn't provide it here, but it's still an event which did go on at some point. Whether it be Sunday night or early hours of Monday morning, you had the situation with Mikey Lair and Noah Presgrove. Mikey fish hooked Noah in the mouth over an argument because Mikey couldn't find his phone, and supposedly Caden Pressey or another partygoer, male, was covering it because they were sleeping or resting on a chair. Now, who else could it be? Isaac Rojas, Brylan Sweat, or Caden Pressey, because they're the type of ones that were sleeping in a certain area on or near the chairs. And one of the articles or points, it did say Caden Pressey. Now, for Caden Pressey to be asleep and covering a phone, did Caden ever mention it in any of the interviews about Mikey getting in an argument, a bit physical with Noah, in which there was fish hooking, and then Noah Presgrove bit on Mikey's finger to get him to release the grip? Not from what I can remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, if the phone turned out to be under Caden's body when resting at some point, when would that be? Sunday night, Monday morning? I'm just surprised Caden didn't mention it as in, oh yeah, I was woken up at whatever time because of this thing and the phone was underneath me and then Mikey pulled it away and left. I mean, why was Mikey so adamant and wanting to get hold of his phone? Did he really need it for something in the moment? And why would he react a little bit aggressively just because he can't find his own phone and takes it out on Noah Presgrove? Why that? So the wrestling took place Saturday. The fish hooking and Noah biting back on his finger occurred Sunday night or Monday morning around then. So did Mikey take it out on Noah in the first place and question him for the missing phone because he felt, well, Noah is a prankster, he's probably hiding it from me? Or is it still that subconscious unrest with Noah because of the wrestling that took place Saturday. And if Mikey has psychological issues going over it in his head over and over again, it could bubble away. It could eat him up, even if it's a small scale thing. So just by taking it out on Noah and assuming that he's the one responsible when it's another partygoer that's accidentally covering a phone, due to a simple accident, there is a major misunderstanding which leads to a form of physicality. It's not a good look when you apply it future with what ended up happening with Noah. If a small misunderstanding can lead to a form of physicality, just imagine what else it could lead to on a bigger scale, right? It's not looking too good. And then, of course, when you add alcohol into the mix, it just intensifies, it cranks it all up to the max. So far, Mikey appears to be a little bit problematic. As for Brylan Sweat, not as much, but comes across scared of Noah or cautious because of what Noah is capable of when it comes to wrestling. There's a big reoccurring theme of physicality at this moment in time. As said, I didn't leave the marker for when Noah got fish hooked and when Mikey got bit, and that's just because I can't remember the time. Maybe no time was actually given. So I'm just leaving that out. But the next thing that I do remember seeing, and it seemed to come after the Brylan Sweat slap game with Noah, in which you saw for a brief second Brylan Sweat and Mikey Lair posing in front of the camera. And that was in the same location on the front porchway. Let's play the clip right now.
Which one?
Yeah, hand
We got
You
it.
see my wiener?
Country pimp. One-on-one. Mike Tyson.
The reason why that little clip was interesting is I think it's really the only video that shows Mikey Lair in camera, in shot. With the exception of if there was any unreleased footage out there of other situations. This is the thing. There are a handful of people at the party, some may come and go, but not everybody is documented on camera or in the photos. So it's a big deal when we do come across small little clips. And I think in the past, when I did see the reference Mike Tyson, just a nickname play on words, I didn't know at the time it was Mikey Lair, but it is. So there we go. That clears that up with time, in case anyone was confused. When did it take place though? Well, I'm assuming it occurred just after 1:30 in the morning after Brylan Sweat slapping Noah. Could be wrong, maybe it happened before that. Either way, it was just in the order of that video compilation. I guess what doesn't help is that video compilation of the party footage wasn't all in the exact order. It would have been nice if there was a timestamp provided with each little clip, wouldn't it? That would have helped a lot, but either way, we just work with what we got. So then, after this, what's the next prominent thing? What stands out? Well, it might have gone radio silent at some point. We go to 2 in the morning. So we've gone from 1:30 in the morning Monday to 2 a.m. That's the time when Caden Pressey said he went to sleep, right? Brylan Sweat, Mikey Lair, and Isaac Rojas, are they asleep as well, already, or about to? Well, Caden Pressey, whether that be more so 2:42 onwards, when Caden's asleep, resting, and waking up at 2:42, the other guys around him are asleep, right? So we know that for sure. They're together as like a bunch, guys on the chairs, the sofas, recliners, couch, the odd person on the floor. That's like the sleeping arrangement there. And you might have seen some of the chairs in shot of the party footage, I think, when Caden was sat down in one of the chairs and pointing it towards the kitchen area where his cousin was. So it's like that area. Kind of a small area, but enough chairs to like sleep on or rest. So 2 in the morning, Caden Pressey going to sleep, Brylan Sweat, Mikey Lair, Isaac Rojas already asleep or in the process of going to bed as well. Which sounds pretty normal, doesn't it? But then we move on to the next marker, that at 2:42, and I have put it as up to 5:15 because there was a difference during that time period, a big gap, hours passing on by. Brylan Sweat and Mikey Lair switched places. How would we know? Is the photos, videos? No. But what we do have, once again, from Caden Pressey's interview, consistent on Partners in True Crime and consistent with the leaked, hidden, private interview with police. Caden Pressey did say that when he woke up at 2:42 because his mom, Alicia Lee, ended up calling regarding the cousin situation being resolved and the individual being brought home safely. After 2:42, whilst Caden was awake, looking around him from what he originally said in Partners in True Crime, that he saw Noah Presgrove, Jasmine Milan, Jack Newton near the beer pong table, and I guess everyone else awake and doing whatnot. But then the next time Caden went to sleep was, we thought 3 a.m, but in his unreleased interview states closer to 3:20 or 3:25, which raises a few eyebrows only because of the other events which were to follow after that point with Noah Presgrove exactly. But that can be for a separate video. Before we do go any further, the significance of the 2:42 timestamp was to acknowledge that Noah was awake, alive, safe at the party, and Jack was there too, and Jasmine. But in addition, from, I guess, a mental note made by Caden when looking around him, his guys, his friends, Brylan, Sweat, Mikey, are asleep, Isaac too. But it's the sleeping arrangement, how it differs from 2:42 up to 5:15, in between that, certain people moving about. In no particular order, because I can't remember it, but basically, one of the guys was sleeping on the floor, the other was in the recliner on a chair, sleeping. That was like that at 2:42, when Caden was awake and conscious. Then 3 a.m. or later, going back to sleep, hours passing by, 5:15 when Jack Newton announces the news of Noah's passing, Noah's death at the highway, after Jack comes back to the house. Interesting, of course, Caden awoken once again. And I guess the others are woken up too at the same time or slowly afterwards. But at 5:15 when Caden is woken up once again, he's looking around and he notices that Brylan Sweat, where he was originally sleeping at 2:42, and where Mikey Lair was sleeping at 2:42, they've switched places. The one that was on the floor then is now on the recliner. The one that was on the recliner then is now on the floor. What the hell is that all about? Oh, you're looking out for one another, you're doing like guard shift duties, right? You spend so many hours on the floor, I'll be on the nice comfy chair, and then we'll switch up later. Now, you don't normally do that. Once you go to sleep, you're asleep for the most part of it until you're woken up or you wake yourself up naturally. So, why did these two individuals, Brylan and Mikey, switch places? We've already seen the names mentioned earlier on. Encounters with Noah, the theme of physicality, the presence of alcohol. One being reluctant, Brylan, the other one maybe a little bit frustrated, who knows? Did those two individuals think in between 2:42 to 5:15, let's both wake up, let's both look for Noah and see where he's at, let's have it out with him, let's get our revenge? That's just a theory, simply an idea, right? Based on the previous events which have followed. But we've got to question it anyway. Theory or not, Caden Pressey stating that Brylan Sweat, Mikey Lair changed sleeping places, which would mean both would have to physically wake up either at the same time or one wakes up the other. They stand up, they move, they switch places and then go back to sleep. You don't normally do that. You just wouldn't. Not really. So, what caused them to wake up in the first place? And then what caused them to change places? How does that actually help? How would it be an alibi? You get what I'm saying? Oh, you change places if you were the driver that crashed the car, change places with the seat of the passenger, so then the blame is put on the passenger who's now in the driver's seat. It doesn't work long term, that. when you check for the medical examination, the records, it'll prove that the seatbelt was on the passenger, who then was placed in the driver's seat, and then the other person's caught out for trying to mess with the scene. In terms of if both Brylan and Mikey are asleep at 2 a.m. onwards, just like Caden Pressey, and if Caden Pressey is regarded and seen as quite innocent, or 100% innocent, then the same should apply to Brylan, Sweat and Mikey. And there would be no reason or room for concern for Brylan or Mikey to think we need to wake up early in the morning to switch places so it's like an alibi for us. It doesn't matter where you sleep. If you're close together with Caden and you're all asleep at the same time, then you're all as innocent as one another. There's no reason to move. There's no reason to adjust anything. So there'd have to be another motive, wouldn't there? And, is sleeping in the wrong position from where the other one was as simple as accidentally putting on the wrong shoe? It would seem pretty obvious, when it comes to the sleeping arrangements. There's a big difference between sleeping on a chair and sleeping on a floor, both visually and comfort level. And who was on the floor first, when returning back, if they did move about inside of the house or went outside, when returning back to going to sleep, whether they both went back to sleep at the same time, well then wouldn't one protest, hey Brylan, or stop going on the floor, I should be on the floor, or no, you should be on the floor, I should be on the chair, no, it's the other way around, and then complaining. But no one was woken up through any commotion there. So it's just very interesting. There's not enough depth behind it, but just imagine if the CCTV cameras were working. What could it have shown in the area? Oh, I don't know why it flicked off there. What could have shown? Right, I'm just rotating it back because I didn't move the screen before. Apologies about that. But you got Brylan, Sweat, you got Mikey Lair sleeping near to Caden Pressey. Shouldn't be an issue. But in between 2:42 and 5:15, both wake up in order for them to switch sleeping places. Weird. Did Isaac Rojas wake up? So this is the thing. The only reason why and why Caden Pressey knows that it looks to be the case that Brylan, Sweat, Mikey Lair woke up at some point to maybe do things is because they've switched places. And you don't magically switch places if you're both asleep all the way through. You don't just transport. You got to physically wake up. You got to physically get out, move, and then switch. But as for Isaac Rojas, no guarantee, but Isaac Rojas could have woken up as well with the two other guys. It's just that when Isaac returned back to going to bed, he made sure to sleep in the same position as he did when he first went to bed, as Caden may have witnessed, right? That's what the slip-up could be with Brylan and Mikey. If Brylan and Mikey did whatever, and we'll get more into those possibilities shortly, but they did whatever, they woke themselves up, or someone woke one another up, did things, returned back to go to sleep, and they slept in the same exact places as they did before, then Caden Pressey would have never have thought anything of it, would never have picked up on it, and it would have been, brushed aside, forgotten about. So it's very interesting there, and for Caden to acknowledge it as a very strange event, it is weird. Because of the possible slip-up of changing sleeping locations and arrangements, that's what highlighted that they've obviously woken up at some point in between 2:42 and 5:15. And in terms of the critical timing of everything, without going too deep in terms of the private interview, because that timeline is a little bit dodgy, which I'll need to look at closer because it kind of confused me. But if we're basing it off the original timeline from Partners in True Crime, really, I guess the key timing of where things did kick off with the Noah Presgrove outcome, the beginning of the end, was in between 3 a.m. to around 3:30, possibly. For the shower, well, first of all, for the side-by-side accident, for the shower situation, the sleeping debacle, possible argument, walking out to cool off, going outside, which Caden Pressey did say in a private interview is normal for Noah to do, and he's done it previously at other parties, reinforcing what Jasmine Milan was stating in a Facebook follow-up in November of 2023, and even what Sarah Long stated as well, in a way. Bit of consistency, isn't it? Even with opposing individuals at one another's heads. So even enemies can see eye to eye with one another at times, and you definitely need to look into that a lot closer, don't you? So, just worth highlighting. Let's just return back to, though, what could Mikey and Brylan could have got up to. Woken up inside the house. How many other people would have been awake in between 2:42 to 5:15? Or more so, we're zeroing in 3 in the morning to 3:30, which appears to be the timing with Noah. Because this is the thing, we've not heard any reports or mentions of anyone else saying, oh yeah, after 2:42 but before 5:15, we actually saw Brylan and Mikey moving about. You know, in terms of other party goers where they may recall someone being awake or another person being asleep to reinforce or debunk a person's story. Just not heard that. So Caden is saying in between 2:42 from how he saw the people sleeping, and then 5:15 when he saw it again when awoken and they were in different positions. So it's in between 2:42 to 5:15, which is quite a few hours passing on by. Moving about could have even occurred after 3:30, even around or after 4 in the morning. It has to be before 5:15 though. You get what I'm saying? Would it be influenced by the supposed claims of searching for Noah, who was supposedly treated as a missing individual but not serious enough to actually go looking for him? I mean, if we just go down to here, street level, to zoom on in, Noah supposedly walking away at 3:30 to cool off, never to be seen again after that. But from the looks of it, would have been seen by some people if it's based on a murder outcome. How far would Noah have made it off the property, or did he not even get that chance? Do you only do a couple of steps and then instantly taken out, attacked, dragged away, taken aside where everyone else is still inside with either music playing or just some noise, kind of like deafening out the sounds from outside? We've done little map analysis there about those possibilities, but if that's in between 3 to 3:30, and then at 3:41 Jasmine goes outside onto the front to take that selfie, did she see anything in front of her which was out of sight of the camera? Right? That's one dark way of looking at it. But Jasmine Milan was kind of defending herself, saying, well, we had no clue what was going on at that moment. We didn't anticipate what was going to happen next. And in the past, he would always return back. The story did change with time because of the geofencing being announced. So some of the partygoers stated that, oh yeah, we actually went searching for Noah and tried looking, but weren't successful. And in the end, we just kind of gave up because we just thought, oh, he's probably okay. He's probably made it back somewhere. Jack saying probably got a ride back home by a stranger in the dark. Does that normally happen? Sounds very risky, if I'll be honest with you. And yet they just brush it off. Oh, well. Maybe they never searched. Small chance that it could have been made up to just make it seem like they cared and they were concerned, you know, for that level of innocence, a psychological response, reaction to an ongoing event pending the outcome. The exact time of Noah's death, could that link or determine the time of Brylan Sweat and Mikey Lair waking up and moving about the house or going outside? Who knows? The time of death is unknown, but at least to Jack Newton's knowledge, to do with the highway possibly, 4 in the morning, 4 a.m. is supposedly the time of when Noah passed away, from what Jack said to Justin Roy in the past. And it's not changed too much since. There could be truth within it, but it's a bit weird to say, and as far as it wasn't really followed up on, with police possibly, ME report, things like that. Did the news articles highlight it enough? A little bit, but should have received maybe more attention, and still to this day, it's such a critical timestamp. At the end of the day, some people may play it off and say, oh, it's probably just a lie, like many of the things that come out of Jack's mouth. But whether you're pissed off, whether Jack's pissed off Jack, or he pissed himself off, or someone's pissed him off, it doesn't matter. Got to focus in on these timestamps closely. See how much truth is there to it, because you never know. And even if it was a lie, why the hell would you lie about the time of death for Noah? Why do you even make it up? It just makes no sense. If you didn't know, you won't know. So there'd be no need to give an actual time. You just wouldn't know. And if you claim to be innocent, then you wouldn't be given a timestamp like that, because it makes you a person of interest, as in you know when it happened. Do you know what happened? Were you there when it happened? Things like that. So that's the questionable thing with Jack. But still, if we wanted to whittle it down from, I would say 2:42 a.m. to at least 4 in the morning, closer to 4 a.m. in the morning when Jack supposedly may have not been at the party house, but who was? Do you get what I'm saying? If no one else recorded or reported hearing or seeing Brylan and Mikey moving about in the house, no noises either, it might have happened at a later point once everyone else did go off to sleep and was knocked out, and then others were taken home. So if we just revert back to the house over there just for a second, just bear with me. Caden Pressey goes to sleep at 2, wakes up at 2:42, goes back to sleep at 3 to 3:20 or so. But during that time, at least up to 3 in the morning or so, Jack is supposedly still awake at the party, and the girls are too. As for the true time of when Jack went to sleep, who knows, because it changed so many times. Did Jack ever go to sleep though? You get what I'm saying? Surely at some point you would have gone to sleep, because you need some sleep and rest, or be completely exhausted. I mean, did we ever do a bullet point as in who was remaining at the party? I think so, but I don't know if that was a reference to Sunday night or Monday morning. Maybe I'll leave that for a separate timeline, because I still have that one pending. I think in regards to the names of the individuals that we're used to hearing, the characters, they were still there. I think there might be a chance that Caden said there was some Texas boys still present. I do remember in the past that supposedly some Texas boys left the party house afterwards. Noah, when wandering off at 3:30, Texas boys left after that. How many? Who? Exactly? Names? Don't know. But that's supposedly the order it followed in. Everything would be a lot clearer if the cameras were working at the property. You would have seen who comes, who goes, and if anyone's moving about during the early hours of the morning. Because just imagine, regardless of the motive or reason, as if you could reinforce it with, Caden Pressey the sleeping arrangements, that you actually saw footage inside or outside of the house of Brylan and Mikey walking around. What would they really be doing? Stealing alcohol, messing about, meeting up with anyone in between? I mean, does it tie in line with the possible timeline of when supposedly JJ Bump Ass, well, possibly JJ, because the name wasn't mentioned by Caden, just that there was a skinny guy. I don't know if you would say Bump Ass is a skinny person. Maybe more now than before. But that's just a reference to my video, in case you're wondering. A little bit flat. But the other name's Colton Newton Travis Monson, who came on down Sunday night, Monday morning, like a crossover, at a certain time when Caden Pressey was asleep. Caden saw it, but was too drunk to mention anything or to say anything. And those guys that were present there were stealing, taking alcohol. They returned back, meaning they were there earlier on or a day before. Where did they go after that point? Did they hang around on site of the property? Did they work their way down to this area here, where that building is, and the trailers? Did they go to the top, near to the highway, where this building is? Who knows? These guys that have returned back, who could or may not be responsible for a possible murder situation with Noah. Could Brylan and Mikey have met up with these guys like a group, planned or not? And in the space of time when Noah was walking away, Noah ended up coming across them all together like a big group of people. 3 guys stealing alcohol, drinking, may get drunk. Brylan Sweat, suppose he doesn't have an issue with Noah, but maybe a little bit cautious of Noah, as we've seen in terms of body language. And Mikey Lair, possibly having a bit of a grudge against Noah. But do we have a definitive motive for why anyone of those type of people would do stuff to Noah at the time? Well, if you used to say JJ bump ass on the sideline, it was a motive there. If it's relevant to the time, which I'm not too sure of, because from what Alicia Lee said in the past, JJ bump ass wasn't there at the party and supposedly wasn't with Logan Jernigan at the time, that girl. But other people claim that it's all true. JJ was there. Caden reinforced it in his private interview. Very interesting. But in terms of the relationship status, some people online are saying that JJ was with Logan at the time, or close, or getting on with her. So if Noah was to sleep or kiss or do anything to Logan at the party and JJ saw it, heard it, found about it later, then JJ could have it out with Noah. So there would be a motive behind that. But then why would there be a motive for Brylan? To just join on in for the fun of it? Would he do that then? Peer pressure? Or you wanted to? You know? Mikey joining in for the sake of it? The motive of a grudge from a day or two before, feeling embarrassed by Noah and wanted to get him back. Just like how, not quite the same way, but Avery Combs supposedly felt, also known as Avery Howard, that was insulted by Noah supposedly either Saturday or Sunday night, whether that be being called the fat beep line or something else, in front of everyone, and Avery felt humiliated and didn't like that, so wanted to take it out on Noah afterwards, directly or indirectly, by getting the help of others. Could that be the reason for why those 3 guys came on down? The 3 wise men, not so much though, the 3 flat asses came on down, got the alcohol, and in the process was waiting for Noah. You do understand, you can see I'm drifting off with other named individuals, but it could be around the same time as when Brylan and Mikey were awake and moving about the house. Either way, Caden Pressey wasn't awake to witness those 2 guys wake up and then come back after and exchange or switch sleeping places. He just saw the before and after state from 2:42 to 5:15. So something in between that time period, which is a big time window for a range of things to happen, right? The possibilities are endless. So as for the motives, at the moment, not strong enough, but if I do another timeline map analysis next time, based solely on Caden Pressey's exclusive private interview, all the timestamps there, and I arrange it out like I've done today, but an individual one, then compare, contrast with this analysis and see how does it tie up? How linkable is it? There's room for links, of course. In terms of the time of death, the true time of death of Noah, not officially given. We're only working with the 4 a.m. timestamp mentioned by Jack. In terms of the time it took to kill Noah, was it a slow or fast death? I'm not too sure of myself, honestly, publicly speaking. There might be some in the background that I do know more, but it is what it is at the moment in time. So I'm just trying to establish a link. So there's questions regarding what caused Brylan and Mikey to wake up in the first place at the same time or one after another. What then caused them to switch sleeping places? And did anything happen in between before that happened? Oh, we've woken up, let's walk around the house, or let's go outside the property and what? Mess about? Meet up with people? See, if only we knew what the true timestamp was with the time of when Noah wandered off. Because in the private interview by Caden, from what he was told of and from what he relayed to the police guys is vastly different to what we've heard elsewhere. And it kind of has a chain reaction of all the timelines and events. It doesn't help. That's why we'll do that separately, because it gets a bit too messy and I just want this to be somewhat simple. Okay? So there's a few questions I've thrown out there. If any of you have theories and ideas, your own opinions, whether you agree or disagree with what I've said, you can add them on. But it definitely seems like Brylan and Mikey physically moved to switch places. To stage an alibi would make no sense whatsoever, but to both wake up and get on with activities, good or bad stuff, would make more sense. How long for though? Because that's the other question. Caden didn't witness it, so Caden couldn't time or track how long they were away from their little beds. Not literal beds, but you get what I'm saying. How long were they away from the sleeping area? And where did they actually go? What's the furthest did they go to? Did they have their phones on them at the time? Could you track their movement, was it, with Life 360? Is that possible? Because imagine if it said, oh, they were in this field over here. That would be a bit random, wouldn't it? Really early hours of the morning and it's dark. Or if they were near to this house, or if they were closer to the highway, it would just seem a little bit random. Now, if some people are sceptical of Jack Newton and think he could be responsible, and with that 4 a.m. timestamp and with being at the highway multiple times, is there a possibility that some way, somehow, that Jack Newton, if responsible, may have needed help and seeked out Brylan and Mikey for assistance, possibly? Get some other guys to help, get the muscle in who can help get things done. But would those guys be willing to help Jack? Would there be a favour? Would there be a form of blackmail? Is it looking out for one another? How close are they? Close friends or just friends? I just want to throw it out there as possibilities. Anyway, in terms of certainty or higher degree of confidence, besides this major timeline event, which we've looked deeply into, what happened after this? I mean, this one. What happened after this, sleeping thing? If we zoom out, 5:40. Oh yeah. We get to that. So the next thing is after 5:15. So despite Caden waking up and seeing that, the guys have switched places, it's interesting how Caden did pick up on that when there was so much going on in that moment in time of hearing the news, the shocking news of Noah's death, and yet Caden was able to process a small little change to the side of him. That's kind of interesting. Either way, I guess Caden didn't think too much about it because they were rushing about trying to get to the highway. And this is what leads us on to where the group activity took place. Where it's like highlighted in orange there, that's an example of a group activity. The guys going to sleep all at the same time or one after the other. So the next one that did happen was just after 5:15, which they got down to the highway after Caden spent 2 to 5 minutes looking for his Hey Dude shoe, which ended up to be found on Noah's body himself. So did Caden hop on out or just take his other mismatched shoe on and just go without shoes? Either way, it's not that hard to believe, because if you're in a rush and bad situation, who cares? Just get there somehow. And Caden said he drove down to the highway. And as for passengers, it was Brylan Sweat, Mikey Lair, Isaac Rojas. You've seen that black line, who's follow it down to the highway. And we get to this point here. So you see on the sides, first one, Caden Presley, Brylan Sweat, Mikey Lair, Isaac Rojas arrive at the scene around 5:20 in the morning. By 5:30, they left. But what really went on here? Well, Caden Presley said what happened with what he did. He'd get close to the body, just check in, sort of black shorts on Noah, sort of mismatched shoes, went to try and get a towel or something to cover Noah's body out of respect, got told off for doing that, and then told to leave, and Caden left to respect the elders. Jack was allowed to stay, I guess because of being the best friend and being there earlier on, which you could say is a bit questionable. Does it link back to the 4 in the morning timestamp? But anyway, because Caden was told to leave, it meant that Brylan, Mikey and Isaac had to leave as well, because if not, they would be just abandoned down the highway, and they were told probably as well to leave. So they all got back in the vehicle drove back home. And when they left, the time was around 5:30 in the morning. What did Brylan, Mikey and Isaac do though once they got to the highway? Well, supposedly they all got out of the vehicle from what Caden said, but they didn't really do much else. They were supposedly very emotional and crying. Now, in the Partners in True Crime episode interview, Caden Pressey only referred to Isaac Rojas being very emotional and crying, no reference to the other two guys. But in the private interview, Caden grouped it as in, oh, all three of them were crying and very sad and upset, which is a normal response, of course, and everyone reacts differently at different times. But still, if on the basis that Mikey and Brylan, for example, were somewhat caught up within this case, responsible for something or knows something and present to witness it, then why would they be upset when they may know or have participated in what happened earlier? Is it a form of guilt? Is it a form of regret? Or is it a form of blending in to appear innocent? Different ways of looking at it. Either way, they drove back to the party house whilst the girls were in the kitchen or living area awaiting the return. Coming down to the party house to hear, to announce the news, or at least to reconfirm it, the girls are obviously all crying, which consisted of Logan, Jasmine, Avery, Carter, no Stephanie Milan, because I think it was Caden Pressey. Yes, Caden Pressey in his private interview said Stephanie Milan came on down later with maybe the mother, if that's the ties to the family, when the time when Renee Milan came on down. Stephanie was there too, which is weird because I don't know why Stephanie Milan said in that Snapchat that she was there at the party, making it sound like she was there throughout the party. Maybe we go over that in a separate video. But yeah, once they made it back here, Caden sat down to watch some TV just simply as a distraction and as well just for a bit of change of scenery. Very normal to do. But is it normal for Brylan, Mikey and Isaac, who are all supposedly very upset, just go off to sleep, go to bed just like that? When mentioned in Partners in True Crime episode, the host Rob and Cindy were like shocked, was surprised. When it came to Cafe Bingo Hall Bingham Bangham, whatever you call them, the private investigator in recent time did a public post on Facebook, which was later deleted by themselves, questioning Caden Pressey only. Who goes to the highway to only come on back because they've been told to leave, to then sit down, watch TV and not call the parents? Who does that? Kathy showed like a form of doubt, questioning Caden's ability and his actions at the time, making it sound like that Caden is suspicious. But Kathy Bingham made no reference, no acknowledgement to the likes of Brylan, of all people, somewhat related to the private investigator, Mikey and Isaac Rojas straight up going to sleep. That wasn't highlighted as questionable, only what Caden did. So it sounds like at a point in time, Kathy Bingham has an agenda against Caden, which is unfortunate and seems one-sided, biased, and not good if you're in a position of a private investigator in that role. Problematic. So, how can three guys be very upset and then go to sleep like nothing happened? How well did they sleep? I'm guessing they went back to sleep on the chairs. And if Caden was watching TV nearby, he would have seen whether they were asleep or not, I'm guessing. Did they go into a deep sleep? I'm not too sure. But for 5:30 to make it back to the house, it probably would have been roughly, and I'm saying roughly because that's why we saw the marker there just before, around 5:40 or so, Brylan, Sweat, Mikey, Isaac sleeping. The next key time being 6:30, from what Caden said in at least in the Partners in True Crime interview. 6:30, Renee Milan arrives. In the private interview, it was elaborated, Renee Milan, husband, Stephanie Milan, and Stephanie's boyfriend. What is it, some big family outing and visit? Oh, we'll spend 30 minutes on the highway too, and then come on down to the house to let people know to ask for the firearms, even though the firearms that Renee wants are the same firearms in the possession of the partygoers that are present at the house, who would be going home anyway and taking their guns with them, and yet Renee wants to take them away from the owners that are present to then return them back later. Makes no sense. A little bit silly, don't you think? Oh, and Renee also says to Caden, don't be moving anything, it's pointless, police are going to know you had a party anyway. Caden doing it to protect himself, but also protect everyone else from getting in trouble with police. But Renee still thinks it's an important idea to remove the firearms. Why is that? Isn't that just as important as the alcohol? Shouldn't it be known that the police are aware of firearms being present at the party? Just in case, it could help the case, and to keep the scene natural and untouched. Oh no, we want the firearms, but keep everything else as it is. Who cares? We are drifting away once again. But during that time of when Renee was there at least, and Caden said he had the idea to clean up the cans, I think in the private interview, Caden worded it as, we did this, we did that. So who's that? Brylan, Mikey, Isaac helping collect the guns? Maybe. If it's their own guns, collecting them to then hand over to Renee, which doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, if you had laundry washing and someone came around and said, can I have it? I'm going to go and clean it. I'm going to take it somewhere and then I'll return it back to you later. Okay, it's like a favour. If you had dirty clothing and they said, I want your dirty clothing, I don't care whether it's the drawers or higher up, it does not matter, Sharon. I want those clothes right now, Sharon. I'm going to take them away. I'm not going to clean them. Who knows what I'm going to do with them? And then I'm going to return them back afterwards. It's like, what's the point? What's the point in taking them away when the person's already in the presence of them? It's stupid. I could understand if it was firearms left behind in which other partygoers already went back home and dropped off earlier and they forgot about them. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. And it was only 3 firearms at the end of the day. So how many firearms were there beforehand, earlier, or the day before? Only 3 firearms? And yet there's 40 people? Doesn't sound as bad as I think now. But it's never really cleared. Either way, Caden doing his thing, cleaning up, and maybe others participating and helping. Not much details given though by Caden there. Then, what was the next thing to come out? At close to 7 in the morning, Caden Pressey said, him, Brylan Sweat, Mikey Lair, Isaac Rojas, go home. And I guess the same with Renee Milan and whoever goes with them, right? Which probably just Jasmine Milan with the family. And then as for Avery, Carter Logan, stay at the party house. We don't really hear much from them individually, as in having to stay at the party house with knowing everything that's gone on earlier. Providing you're innocent, it's not a good place to be. You're in the middle of nowhere, Kevin Darkness, you got to stay here, someone's been killed, and you got to stay put. Could you be next? Could that be a thought going through a person's mind at the time? Would be if you've got to stay on site and await the unknown. Anyway, focusing back in on why we've got a group situation here is because Caden was giving Brylan, Mikey and Isaac a lift back home. So I'd assume that Brylan, Mikey and Isaac, whatever day they attended the party, they did not drive down there. They got a lift down there, just like how Noah did on the Sunday at least. Now, Justin Roy, I guess, mentioned the point of Mikey only attending the party Sunday night, which doesn't seem to be the case now. But at the time of when he did attend Sunday, he got a lift down there. So if Mikey was there on Saturday, which Caden states, did Mikey drive down there or did he get a lift down there and stay there going into Sunday and then Monday? It would make more sense than going back and forth. Noah Presgrove being the exception, because Noah on the Saturday drove down in his own vehicle, then was able to drive back to his place of living Sunday morning after breakfast, after hanging out with the friends from the party. And then the next time Noah going back down to the party, a lift taken. So, yeah, that makes more sense. But either way, Caden was able to drive and able to give people the lift back. So that's why we got the lines highlighted in black. Said something about reaching the mile marker and then driving around it. Right, so we've got a turnaround point here in parallel to the quarry. and just further up is the area where the body was, Noah. So, if you're saying this is like a mile section, and Caden said he drove around it, does that literally mean that on this side of the lane where traffic would be coming down to go to Terrell, because we're currently facing north, so they'd be coming south towards me, what we see on screen, that this lane would be closed or kind of sealed, blocked, but this other lane on this side, where you would be heading the way you're dropping people off, as in Caden Pressy is with Brylan, Mikey, Isaac, they just drove just around the obstruction. Is that it? Because I don't see any other turn-off points here, only further down that way, as I pointed out. Either way, getting down there somehow, some way, and if we just follow it down, you will see the markers. Just we'll just do it bit by bit. Quite a bit of distance covered, in fairness. Going through Ryan, you see there, very long highway. Passing Sugden, going to Warwick, which I believe is the location of where they attended on the Sunday morning at a gas station for breakfast. Passing Jefferson County Hospital, which is kind of ironic. Going through Addington, as you see there. We don't need to measure the distance in case you're wondering, because it's about 44.4 miles or so. Going through Comanche, which is obviously a key place because we've heard that reference before in the articles of where either people live or once lived. And then passing Meridian, Meridian, reminds me of her. And then I end the marker here because it's pretty much close to Duncan and the final spot or area. So in no particular form of accuracy, but in the correct order, you see these markers on the sideline. This is along the way going down to Duncan and maybe a bit beyond, possibly. From what Caden Pressy said in the Partners in True Crime interview, at least, because I did check it again just earlier today, that Brylan Sweat, a person of interest, and Isaac Rojas were dropped off at the same location, whether that be Brylan's house or Isaac's house, they were both dropped off at that same place. Any reason? Because they were hanging out, having a sleepover, looking out for one another, getting their stories straight, so that's why they needed to stick together. Who knows? But really, the focus of today was Brylan Sweat and Mikey, and yet they were dropped off in separate places. Not far from the Bible missionary group. Sharon, it's not yoga time, no missionary, unless you want to use a Bible. Anyway, that's completely off subject. But after Brylan and Isaac being dropped off, Kane said he then dropped off Mikey Lair, and that was within Duncan, or at least near to Duncan. And then after that, then Caden close to returning to his place of living. No exact coordinates given out of respect for privacy, and furthermore, I just simply don't know. But this is just the order it went in. And it's in between 8 to 8:30 from the timestamps I remember Caden saying, returning back to the house to then let his parents know what happened. Okay? So as we do still use Caden's timeline, we can also focus more in on Mikey Lair and Brylan Sweat. So hopefully it was relatively easy to follow. I think there might be a follow-up though if we can compare it with the refined timeline of the private interview possibly. All in all, I'm quite pleased with how that video turned out with the map analysis, just making it a lot easier once again. The theories, the ideas, visualizing it, but being able to look at something when I'm talking. I do want to say, not in advance, but more retrospectively, apologies for, was it last night's video when it was on that loop over and over again. The thing is, when I was doing it at the time, it was on repeat for as long as I needed to speak. And I set like a random 20-minute period of it on repeat, and I would just talk, narrate over it for as long as possible, and it went full length. But when I'm looking at something visually, I lock in right? And then I can just keep talking about it and it's easier to do so. So whilst I'm really locked in, other people may not be. So they just keep seeing the flashing. Whilst I'm talking, I'm thinking at the same time whilst looking at whatever's on screen. So it might have been a bit distracting for some people. So it looks like, once again, Warlike Wrath, as good as I might be with healing people, I'm also traumatizing people at the same time. Yeah, it doesn't sound too good, does it? And apologies to Miriam for last night's outcome. It's abstract art. That's all it is. It's abstract art. But to reflect back on in the moment right now with the map analysis, with the events of Brylan Sweat, Mikey Lair, a lot of different ideas to put into perspective. Some of it could be reinforced with evidence, but it depends if the evidence is publicly available and it's moment in time. I guess it's not. And there might be other people as well that may know a lot more, and some pulling their hair out their heads. But it is what it is. There is a process to this all, and this is an original style video, stuff that I've extensively done in the past. And the good thing is I can still do it, even though I've not had as many chances because of all the other news coming out. But, you know, if people were to come along, whether that be outsiders, insiders, who knows, and they were to minimise, how would they minimise what's gone on here? Oh, two guys woke up, switched places. Wow, that's a big deal. Not. The reason why it's important is so you know who to account for. Who was where, what were they doing, and at what time. Because it's within a time frame period of when Noah supposedly died, you need to know where everyone is in the moment and onwards. Because if they're anywhere near Noah, they may know something or they may be responsible firsthand. Now, we don't have evidence and proof to say where Brylan and Mikey went to or how far they went and did they leave the house, but still, they physically switched places. And normally, that doesn't really happen unless there's a reason to do it, or you've kind of just been neglectful, you're half asleep and you just pick the wrong spot, as in like Noah maybe putting on the wrong shoe if he was in a rush, or if he wasn't quite thinking clearly, or if he was somewhat drunk. Sometimes it can impact your thought processing and your actions onwards. But still, it's worth looking into because it's not like a normal thing to happen unless people disagree with it. And it's just good to know what were they doing, where, when and why. Okay, 2:42 to 5:15, that's a big time frame. Because within that, a time of when Noah died and on the basis of a murder situation. But it's also within the time frame of the news coming out post-death of Noah too. So it's quite wide. You need to try and minimise it a little bit and look closer at it if possible. So that's what we're trying to do. Is there anything else to acknowledge? I mean, has Brylan Sweat, Mikey ever publicly spoken out about that particular event which Caden Pressey highlighted? Not from the looks of it. Was there any major backlash about that particular moment? No. Maybe as a whole, the timeline has been attacked and questioned by insiders, those within the case, those connected with those within the case. Whether you see it as gaslighting, whether you see it as insulting, unnatural, forceful, counterpoints, you're wrong, Caden's wrong, this and that, as a whole. But not like I've not seen direct, deep conversations about Brylan, about Mikey as a timeline, not to my knowledge. So hopefully this is the video which can help, and maybe it should have been needed and done much earlier on, but as part of the timeline there was a lot to look at, and I just feel like just recently now is the time to do it, because who knows what it could link on with next. And I think I probably could do a follow-up video as well if I get to the point of doing that updated timeline of the original timeline which Caden was referring to. Well, it's not exactly the original, because Caden had that interview in October, and then the leaked interview that we saw was June, but 2024. So, what, there's only like 2 or 3 interviews. Partners in True Crime, the last one. Was there a TikTok one in between? Maybe. I mean, I don't know if any more interviews have taken place. I don't know what the activity levels are like on TikTok, if it's as active or not. Did Ashley Chadwick have a TikTok account or something? Maybe have a little look at that, see what's going on there. But I've not really seen Brylan, Mikey speak out publicly, to my knowledge, even Isaac. Is there a reason for that? If there wasn't anything to see, nothing strange going on, it would have been good if they just did like a public post saying, oh yeah, you know, we got up at a certain time, we decided to mess about or play a prank, but we didn't know what else happened, we didn't see anything. And if that was truly true, then at least it would clear it up. At the moment, it's a mystery. And although they returned back, it's just that mystery of a sleeping situation. It is quite different, but it just reminds me of a story, a real story in real life. And Ewu Crew talked about it. What's his name? Nick Soderberg? Nick Soderberger? Along the lines of that. He went missing, never to be seen again. He's got a YouTube channel some years ago now. But in terms of the events that happened, Nick was with a roommate or a friend. They were in the same room, sleeping in individual beds. They hear a female scream or a voice. Nick wakes up, checks about. His friend says, no, don't go outside. And then in the end, Nick does go outside to check. And his friend, when waking up the next time round, Nick didn't return. That's creepy. And then when going outside, looking about in the area and stuff, some clues along the way, some clothing, whether it be his or someone else's, on like some rocks or near to the sea. I don't know the location. I can't remember it all. It's just very creepy. It's just one of those things, whether it be mystery, a true crime thing. There's only like certain things which then make me think, oh, yeah, that's good. Not good in terms of the outcome, but just interesting. And, you know, you want to use the term, it's fun to listen, it's fun to watch, but at the same time, it's a bad event. You can't help but use that word because fun can equal interest, interest can equal fun. Either way, positive emotions expressed leads to a better focus on whatever you're doing, a better output, a better performance, and that benefits the case. Pretty much summarised, isn't it? So, same things like that. Sleeping, you're in bed, you're supposed to be comfortable, and then things happen at the worst time. If you're with others and things happen, whether they return back or not, but you remain, it's kind of that feeling of, I wonder what they're getting up to. I wonder what they're doing. What can they see? Where are they at? How long are they going to be until they come back? As for Kane and Preston, wasn't quite like that because it was wake up 2:42, see people sleeping in a certain position, then wake up once again at 5:15 and now they've swapped. It's a bigger mystery there, and that's what makes it interesting. You can have sub-mysteries within a mystery as a whole. You can have sub-mysteries within a case in which most of it could be solved or there's an idea to it, but there's some things along the way which haven't been tied up just yet. And if they are tied up, will it solve the case? Will it do it completely? Maybe not. I don't know if I'll do it as a poll, or you can maybe leave your comments and thoughts down below under the video. Do you think if it was resolved, if there was an explanation behind Brylan's sweat Mikey Lair for the changing positions and possibly moving about in or outside of the house, doing stuff, would that directly lead to the case being solved? Or do you think it would at least just be a massive lead which then links on to other people or another event and the timing of it? So let's just leave it there for now. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, found it interesting. Be sure to like and share so more people get to see it, to spread that awareness and to keep the case alive. As of today, feels a little bit quiet. It's a bit weird. But anyway, Justin Roy's comment, which was, quite a firm comment, was a bit interesting as well. Is something happening or is something about to? I guess time will tell. But if you are interested in my earlier video today, breaking news, click the I symbol top right corner of the screen and then go from there. That's it for now. I'll see you next time. Goodbye and good night.